evening, folks. This is the Factivist Report for Sunday, April 16th. And tonight we're going to talk about, real corruption, not that fake, let's find some shit on Hunter Biden laptops corruption. Okay. We're talking about perception versus reality. Okay. And I'm turning it over to Dave, and we're going to start right off the top.
Okay. Well, we're good. And I was going to start with a different topic. I was going to talk about the Heritage Foundation and all that stuff. And then I got into the Jared Kushner shell company, and I was like, oh my God, we have to do basically the entire show on this one thing, because I don't think people understand or realize the enormity of it. And this is probably the biggest thing that's going to eventually take Trump and maybe some other people down, maybe some other people in his inner circle.
Because Jack Smith is now looking at this.
Yes, he is. And by the way, Jack Smith didn't come up with this. This was based on a complaint from people in Donald Trump's own staff, because when this company was created by Jared Kushner, the people in his own staff were wondering what was going on, why they weren't included in the information, and maybe they were loyal at one point. But being loyal and being stupid are two completely different things. Talk to Michael Cohen about being loyal and what it gets you. So people were afraid that, oh my God, what is going on? Maybe this stuff is illegal, and they were right to question it. And an FEC investigation started from that back in 2018. Now, the issue with that is that with something like this and with something this large, there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot to investigate. So for anyone to say, oh, well, what took them so long? The reason it took them so long is because there's dozens and dozens of pages and reams of information and numbers and money, money changing hands and all that kind of stuff. Also, he didn't disclose a lot of this information for years. So we're going to get into it.
Look, let me just also say something else. When you're investigating someone like Donald Trump, you may start with one thing, but when you realize the web of corruption that this guy has throughout all of his organization, throughout all of his political organization, it just keeps growing. It's a never-ending thing. And it's one thing to say, Donald Trump is guilty. It's another thing to prove it in court. I'm going to say it again. If they fail to present a case that they can tie together and Donald Trump is acquitted, he becomes a martyr. They need to do this right. It's not just doing it and getting it done fast. It's doing it and doing it right.
Now, the very first thing that I will say is that the power that Donald Trump had and has over other candidates, over policy, and over the Republican Party is the fact that he has gobs and gobs of money. It's not his sparkling personality. It's not his charisma. It's none of that. It's the amount of money that he has amassed, over $1.2 billion, and he's not afraid to spend it either. So this is an article from the New York Times by Shane Goldmacher and Maggie Haberman. This was back in 2020, okay? Now, this is after people realized what was going on with the shell company, or at least they were starting to investigate it. But basically what they were saying here is that Trump had tons of options because of the amount of money that his war chest had. Okay. He can hold rallies. He can hire staff. He can endorse other candidates. He can lay groundwork for another 2024 run. This was after he lost, by the way. So this was December 18th, before January 1st, by the way. So he had a lot of options, including, we will get into it, helping fund the organizers of January 6th through his shell company. One of the things that you get by having so much money available to you is influence, and having people flock to you asking for your endorsement. Okay. One of them happened to be J.D. Vance, who also was endorsed by another person that I'll touch on, Peter Thiel. Okay. So there we go with Mo Brooks, another, toady.
Schmo Brooks.
Schmo Brooks. But you have all these people coming to you. You're considered an influencer. He's a former president. He's this, that, and the other thing. Okay. So now in 2018, it came to light that Jared Kushner helped create a shell company for Trump's campaign, secretly paid the president's family members, and spent approximately $617 million in re-election cash that they know of. By the way, they had $1.2 billion in his war chest. So we're talking $1 billion. You can do a lot with that. You can try to influence a lot of candidates. Most of his candidates did not win, by the way, because they were garbage.
In case you're questioning why none of this was ever investigated prior, it's because in 2018, the Republicans were in power. You don't seriously think that their Department of Justice was going to go after any of this, do you?
Well, I'll get to that, because what sparked the initial investigation is his own campaign staff, right, or his own staff, who was wondering what the hell was going on and what was going on with this company, or this shell company. So he had, as I said, $1.26 billion war chest. Okay, Kushner, through this shell company, directed Laura Trump, Vice President Mike Pence's nephew John, Trump campaign chief financial officer Sean Dolman, to serve on the shell company's board, American-made media consultants. And this is kind of an umbrella thing too. You're going to hear, America First and all that stuff. It's all basically in the same umbrella. All right. American-made media consultants became the source of concern and consternation, they say, in Business Insider, for President Donald Trump's campaign staff. They in turn contacted the FEC, and I have the report in a couple of. So despite its $617 million spending through AAMC, the Trump campaign publicly disclosed very little about what this company was doing, including how he used the money, which, as you could probably ask Michael Cohen, what does loyalty get you? Get you a jail term under President Trump.
Right.
So the operation acted almost like a campaign within a campaign, paid some of Trump's top advisors and family members while shielding financial and operation details from public scrutiny. Also, you find out later that a lot of the lawyers that he uses get paid from the same shell company. All right. So when Kushner and others created the company in April 2018, they picked Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, to become its president. Vice President Mike Pence's nephew, John Pence, as his vice president. And then Chief Financial Officer Sean Dolman as treasurer and secretary. Said a whistleblower, basically, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private conversations about the shell company. All right. So this is one from Vanity Fair, and this is good. There's a lot of hyperlinks in here, so
Use them.
Yeah, take a look at all this stuff. It's crazy. AMC is American Made Consultants. So for months, some of the top advisors and campaign staff told Business Insider, they had no idea how the shell company functions, which cast an air of mystery around the operation. So, just saying. Which, over time, well, this is more about, how these guys got paid. So we have a complaint with the FEC about, not disclosing the purpose, because you create a company for specific reasons. You can't use something like this for things other than what you are saying you're using them for. This is like an 85-page thing. Again, look at it at your leisure. Right. But so now we're at the point, this is 2023. So Kaylin Polance and Sarah Murray, they just published this story a couple of days ago. Now they're talking about Jack Smith going after the operations of the shell company. Because if you're saying you're using it for a specific reason and you're not using it for that specific reason, that's wire fraud. And that's what he's, that's one of the things he's going after. So no one's been charged with any crime in the federal documents probe. Yet prosecutors in recent weeks have moved aggressively to lock down witness testimony in the grand jury and have gathered significant documentary evidence that has moved them towards potentially making a case, according to one of the sources. They're talking about who's paying for what and how are they paying for it. Many of the defense lawyers representing these Trump-aligned witnesses have been paid by the Trump PAC, Save America PAC. So by the end of 2022, Save America had paid $16 million for lawyers who defended Trump and his people who worked for him in the ongoing probes and in recent and other legal issues, such as the recent indictment in Manhattan and an upcoming trial opposite columnist E. Jean Carroll, which isn't what they originally said that was going to be used for.
Right.
Which leads to the claim of wire fraud. So, committee's definitely got something. Legal experts claim threat of wire fraud charges loom over Trump and aides through this shell company. So Daily Beast, Roger Sullenberger, he's one of the ones that has done a lot of work on this. Two former officials in the Department of Justice suggested that specific evidence revealed in the January 6th committee's investigation of Donald Trump provides a roadmap that could lead to wire fraud charges against members of Donald Trump's campaign, officials, and possibly the former president. By the way, some of the organizers of January 6th were paid through his through that shell company. Okay. The report notes that there was a tweet about this. That same day, the Trump campaign sent a fundraising email claiming that Trump will easily win the presidency of the United States with only legal votes cast. The solicitation calls on supporters to donate any dollar amount and join something called the Election Team Defense Force. The campaign, it said, was counting on members to help Trump fight back against election fraud and secure 4 more years. There's also recordings and communications basically indicating that he knew he had no chance in hell. So basically he knew exactly what he was doing. You know, he was lying about the intention of this PAC, and there we go. So here's one of Deb's favorite people, Ronna McDaniel. Republican National Committee makes $30 million in election integrity initiatives, including dozens of lawsuits. Now, we all know the Dominion lawsuit against Fox. I believe they have a lawsuit against some of these people. I don't know if it's against Ronna or against the Kraken, you know, Rudy, all of this. Okay. So I don't know if this money was taken out of that PAC specifically. I wouldn't be surprised, because all of this is connected. Now, Ronna McDaniel did win her leadership for GOP. This is a nice little article, basically saying that from Politico, saying that even though she won, even people in the Republican Party don't know the purpose of the RNC anymore. Okay, nice little article. It was January of this year by Burgess Everett. One of the things, no matter how much money they throw at this thing now, the House of Cards is collapsing.
Right.
Because the evidence just isn't there to support what they're saying. Every single time they try to bring something to court, it fell apart. You know. So this is from Truth Out. Trump allies paid millions of dollars to January 6th rally organizers since 2020. Okay, listen to that though. Since 2020, not 2021, 2020. Okay, they planned this in advance. Trump planned it in advance using his shell company. Here it's from Open Secrets. It's a graph. Shows different companies. We have Event Strategies Incorporated, which was a big one, and then Blue Bonnet Fundraising. Those are two basically companies that were created just for January 6th. And then you have different entities and how the money flowed. Okay. Trump and GOP aligned groups paid January 6 organizers over $14 million since the 2016 election cycle from that shell company. Okay.
Jesus.
This is just an open secrets search engine. Just take a look at it. I didn't put everything in here, but this is one that I did. Okay. So this is from Anna Masoglia. This is November of 2018. Pro-Trump dark money groups first tax return reveals millions in previously undisclosed spending, including from his shell company. I have to find it now. Well, the first thing is, before I get into the other thing, electioneering communications targeting vulnerable Democrats, Senators Joe Donnelly of Indiana, Joe Manchin in West Virginia, and Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota. So spent America's First Policy, sister super PAC, America First Action. There's a ton of those, by the way. Spent another $28.9 million on 2018 elections, according to its most recent campaign finance records. Okay. Picked up fundraising. And by the way, this is not what he's supposed to be doing, but so America First groups have a cozy relationship, sharing workers, phone number, other resources, operation payments include big money to close allies. So America First Policy new tax return reveals a $2.7 million payment to Parscale Strategy LLC, the firm helmed by Trump's campaign manager, Brad Parscale. Okay. The polling firm started by Trump's White House counselor, Kellyanne Conway, received an additional $662,000 from the group. The super PAC arm paid even more to Conway's polling firm, Parscale's digital firm, President Trump's former campaign manager, Lewandowski, and campaign spokeswoman, Katrina Pearson, according to FEC disclosures. And here we go. This is where I wanted to go with this. They do adversely affect national policy. America First Policy payments also include $4.9 million to NMRPP LLC, a reference to National Media Research Planning and Placement LLC, a firm that has been accused of being part of an illegal campaign coordination scheme for the National Rifle Association. What do you mean by that, Dave? Well, let me show you. Now we get into the NRA being accused of an elaborate scheme to evade campaign finance law. We are now talking about Josh Hawley, who ran against Claire McCaskill. Okay, a new complaint, and this is in, what was the date on this? Yeah, in Mother Jones, Mike Spies, but
2018.
Thank you. Yeah, it was in 2018. I didn't see the date, but a new complaint filed with the FEC accuses the National Rifle Association and GOP Missouri Senate candidate, and by the way, now Senator Josh Hawley, of engaging in an elaborate scheme designed to evade detection of campaign finance violations. Now, what, Dave, I want people to understand what I'm saying. Why, Dave, why are you saying it's wire fraud? Why are you saying it's fraud? Well, because Donald Trump and his staff were saying that all of this money was to combat the voter fraud in the 2020 election. There was no voter fraud. Okay, to fight for election integrity. What he was fighting for is to have enough money to completely dominate and control who was able to run, and to potentially take over, or to have a coup on January 6, 2021. So, but Dave, you say, didn't the Democratic Party do something similar to that? No, they did not. Okay. Nothing close. Was Hillary Rodham Clinton pissed off when she lost? Yes, she was. Did she claim Russian interference? Yes, she did. Did she try a violent overthrow of the election? No, she did not. Was the election tampered with? Yep. Yeah, it was.
Yep, it was.
Okay. And who do you think has ties to the Soviet Union and to Vladimir Putin? And now we have overwhelming evidence that he is even called a useful idiot. Is Donald Trump. So you can take a look at this. You can say it's bias, whatever. It's not.
It's fact.
It's not. It's fact.
By the way, I can tell you there are articles out there talking about when Putin was meeting with Trump.
Right.
He knew he could manipulate Trump if he brought in Russian models.
Yep.
And look, we're not talking about the fucking genius of the world here. Donald Trump is not a smart man. Okay, he's a ruthless man, and he is a narcissist, and that counts for a lot when you want your way. Right?
He's an older teenage boy. He's basically a teenage boy in an old man's body. I mean, let's just be honest. So this is, again, read this at your leisure. Here is an intelligence report. I believe it's dozens of pages long. It's here for your leisure. Deb will put in the Mueller Report.
Yep, the illustrated version.
The illustrated version for kids. We're going to put it in DeSantis's school library. And here is from the New Republic. Donald Trump was everything Vladimir Putin could have wished for. Okay, this man probably didn't even know he was laundering money for the Russian mob, but he was. This is back in the 80s. He was not the smartest guy in the world. And as Deb said, he was a narcissist. So what I want to say, too, is originally when I saw all of this with the Jared Kushner shell company, I'm like, we need stronger campaign finance laws. No, we need enforcement of the campaign finance laws, and we need more people, more qualified people who work in that department so that they can process these things more quickly.
Right.
Okay. And again, I'm going to say it again. Okay. Is the Democratic Party full of saints? Are they all good? No, but nowhere near what the Republican Party is doing. And when I look at some of what the Democrats do as opposed, the Democrats do not actively try to take the rights away from citizens. They're not trying to take medical decisions away from parents of transgender kids or from mothers or whatever. They're not trying to take away financial protections. By the way, I've heard complaints about Senator Warren for years. I'm done with that. Okay, Senator Warren is trying to protect people from financial fraud through creating the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Okay, she created that.
That is something that the Republicans have targeted to get rid of.
They're trying to rip it apart.
That's right.
Okay, so is there fraud on both sides? Yeah, there will always be that. And I'm hearing, just as an aside, I'm hearing people complain about the Ukraine war, that we are funding corruption in the. Hold on, there's always going to be profiteering when wars happen. Should we be in the Ukraine? Yes, absolutely we should. Are there going to be bad actors in the Ukraine profiting off of what's going on? Yes, there are. Does that mean we should pull out? No. I'm hearing stuff from the Young Turks and from Jon Stewart. What do you want us to do? What do you want us to do?
Jon Stewart ought to really just get another TV show and get a hobby. All right, look. You know what? Let me just explain something to you. None of these guys has any inside information about what's going on there.
Right.
Right. What they do is parrot the popular thing, because what they are showmen. These are showmen, folks. Okay. He's not a politician, and no, Jon Stewart shouldn't run for fucking president either.
No.
Stop that nonsense. All right.
Right.
What he needs to do is vote Democrat, and that's it. Okay. I'm going to tell you another thing. Do I think there's this level of corruption in the Democratic Party? Absolutely not. All right. Do they take money from corporate America? Yes, they do. And I'll tell you one thing, though. The squad does not take any corporate money.
Right.
Fetterman took no corporate money, and neither did Warnock. And you know what? The newer candidates that were elected have sworn off corporate money and did not take any corporate money. The Democratic Party is moving in the right direction. But to expect the Democrats to win without some level of funding, it ain't going to work. Not when the GOP is spending this kind of money.
They're doing this.
To fix anything, the GOP needs to be voted out. They are fascists, okay?
By the way, $1.2 billion, including, or not included, rather, with the help that Putin gave through Russian news outlets, not including Saudi Arabia, it's like, come on.
Not including the thousands of fake accounts the Russians created on Facebook and all over social media. That is exactly what happened. That is real. That was not made up. That was not fake.
Right. The one minor thing that I will say is about, there are some things that I wish that the Democrats would push in terms of housing in New York City and some of the urban areas. But you have to vote for these guys to push farther to the left and to help with those issues. You have to get more progressive people in, or this is going to be the fight forever.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Joe Biden has been able to do an awful lot of things.
Yeah.
With a GOP that has stood in his way. Okay. And Joe Biden also told you before the midterms what you would need to do to get reproductive rights back, to get gun legislation passed, and to protect transgender and LGBTQ Americans, to take care of people of color, and to make sure that seniors weren't at risk of losing Medicare and Medicaid. He told you. What you needed to do was hold the House. What you needed to do was build a critical mass of Democrats in the Senate. The fact of the matter is, it's not always on the politicians' backs. The voters did not respond. We should never, I don't care if it was the midterms, and history shows that the party in power always loses the House. That's bullshit. We should never have lost the House to the GOP. We had a 9-seat lead. We should never have lost the House. Never. Okay.
By the way, we are at a critical crossroads in this country, not just with federal unions, but with unions. We're at a crossroads right this second. If we want to get worker rights back, we have to do what I'm going to say at the end and succeed. Okay. We have to, if we want to protect people with mental health issues, if we want, mental health and gun rights and gun control, sane gun control, where kids aren't killing each other at freaking graduation parties.
Listen to me. In the state of Texas, just before Uvalde, Governor Abbott loosened gun regulations. In the state of Michigan, just this past week, Governor Whitmer passed an 11 bill package to protect its citizens from gun violence. This is the difference between the two parties. The GOP just got back from its love fest with the NRA, and last night we had 2 mass shootings. Yep. You know what? You're either going to get the picture or you're not. But I'll tell you this right now. The GOP is also now going after child labor protections. You better wake up.
And by the way, those 2 Tennessee assemblymen getting back in is great, but you better take that assembly back, because they're not in the majority. They're not in the majority by any stretch of the imagination. So let me finish this up by saying this is some of what we're going to be talking about next week. This is just one of the money monsters that we're dealing with. So we have, this is from a few years ago. So we have, actually, no, last year, sorry. April 6, 2022, Kenneth Vogel, Shane Goldmacher, and Ryan Mack. I know Deb knows his face well, Peter Thiel, the Rockbridge Institute, okay? This man is becoming a quote-unquote mover and shaker. Yes, he helped get J.D. Vance in. He tried to get Blake Masters in.
He funded them.
He also funded the nightmare that was James O'Keefe, by the way.
Right.
Okay.
But let me tell you where this guy came from. This guy was the founder of PayPal.
Yep.
He was also one of the first board members of Facebook. He no longer believes that democracy and freedom can coexist. He has shifted completely to the right. Completely. He was not on the right when he started all of these things. He moved away from PayPal. It's now owned by someone else. And he's gotten off the board of Facebook, and now he's literally trying to build a right-wing funding source to turn this country into a right-wing gulag. There is just no other way to put what Peter Thiel has done.
And the Rockbridge Institute is becoming one of those monsters. Here's another one. So we have Barry. Okay, this is a billionaire. Yeah, no, I'm good. A billionaire who basically used his cache of money to create a right-wing court.
He's the man who funded the Supreme Court takeover.
Yep.
He left $160 billion to the Federalist Society. We're going to be looking at them as well.
Okay, here's another one, and this is what started me on this whole thing, the Heritage Society. Okay, I just found this one out. So the Heritage Foundation. Now, I understand this is the Washington Times or whatever, but this happened, okay? The Heritage Foundation received a $25 million gift, among one of the biggest in history. They're making it sound like it's an independent gift. It's not. It's from the daughter of the guy who was the chair of the Heritage Foundation for 2 decades or whatever it was. So her name is Diana Davis Spencer, and her father was Shelby Cullum Davis, an investment banker who served as ambassador to Switzerland in the Nixon and Ford administrations, and he was chairman of the Heritage Foundation actually for 7 years, board from 1985 through 1992. Okay. In 2013, the Diana Davis Spencer Foundation gave $26 million to the Heritage Foundation to support the Catherine and Shelley Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at Heritage.
And by the way, I literally have an entire list of actions that the Heritage Foundation gave to the Trump administration when he was in office that they followed almost to the letter. Okay, they are the think tank.
They are.
For the Republican Party.
And when I find it, I can get a TikTok. There's a TikToker. I apologize. I don't know her name right now. TikTok is a really good source for this kind of thing right now. Someone snuck into Heritage Foundation in one of their little corporate meetings. And these guys basically laid out their plan, what they do, what they do when they want legislation to be passed. They write the legislation for these guys. A lot of these politicians don't write their own legislation. They probably don't know how to write or read. So,
well, I can name a few that probably don't.
Yeah.
One of them didn't get a GED for 3 tries.
Also, we have ALEC, which I didn't put in here. That's another one. They basically, they basically copy and paste, bills. Something gets through in a right-wing state, they just start copying and pasting it and giving it to other states.
And remember this name too. We can't forget these guys, Dave. The Claremont Institute.
Right.
I've mentioned this before. They're now in Tallahassee, Florida. They see Florida as the blueprint for all the other GOP-run states. And I can tell you right now, I just did a video last night and posted it on what's going on in Texas. And Texas is following the same pattern as Florida right now. And in fact, our little friend in Florida, the fat little fascist down there, has labeled both Florida and Texas the fighting ground against the left. These people are serious, okay? They're serious.
Now, one thing that I've had it in the back of my mind, but I haven't really looked that much into it. Any interconnections between these shell companies, between these groups, is there any money that, changes hands between the Heritage Foundation and the Claremont Institute or whatever? I did notice that J.D. Vance was backed not only by Trump, but also by the Rockbridge Institute and by Peter Thiel. And that probably helped him a great deal. So that's something to look into. But you guys, what you have to do is
in the Democratic Party here, okay?
You vote. And if you want someone who's a little more progressive, then vote for them in the primary. Don't not vote for someone running against Lauren Boebert, of all people, because he's not progressive enough.
Let me just tell you something. He's running again against her. He lost by 540 votes.
That's Adam Frisch, by the way.
Frisch.
Colorado third.
His right to choose. He supported all the right things. You know what? He is thinking about his voters in Colorado because that's where he's being elected. But he supported all the right things on the national level. And you're going to tell me that he wasn't progressive enough, so you sat it out, and the alternative is Lauren Boebert? You've got to be kidding me. I'm sorry, but I just don't understand that logic.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Now,
that's right-wing thinking, in my opinion.
The next one, and I'm going to get into it at the very end, but the next one is someone from my neighboring district. I'm in the New York 2nd. All right. The New York 3rd. Tom Suozzi ran against Kathy Hochul in the governor primary and lost and vacated his seat. Who took his seat? George Santos. Tom Suozzi is talking about running again, and I hope he does, because I think he will wipe the floor with the guy. Someone needs to take that seat from George Santos before George Santos is implanted in that seat, and it's very hard to get him out.
George Santos needs to go in the next election.
He has to. He has to. Now, people say that Tom Suozzi is too moderate. I'm sorry.
Live with it.
If that's the best that we have right now, he's better than George Santos. So here's the final thing. Okay. I wanted to put this in here. The way to beat some of this just ginormous amount of money, we all need to be more aware of who's running in our district and be active. Not only vote, but get the word out as well. There are 33 GOP held open seats coming up next year. Okay. The list includes freshmen who ousted incumbents. So this is a group called the frontliners, or the most vulnerable incumbents. Now look, the GOP does the same thing. Okay. Two of the people that I know are on this list are two that we just mentioned. All right. They're talking about Katie Porter or Alyssa Slotkin because they're potentially running for the Senate seat. Fine science Senate seat. Chair Sean Patrick Maloney, which was actually a shock, but that was because we had Gen Zers fighting with the more moderate Republicans in New York City. We got to stop. Okay, we have to stop that. If Sean Maloney is the best we got, fine, put him in. Okay, Lauren Boebert. And by the way, can we retire the word firebrand?
She's not a firebrand. She's a Nazi. Okay.
You know who was a firebrand? This is who I consider to be a firebrand. Paul Wellstone.
That's right.
Okay. So stop.
Lauren Boebert is a fascist. Okay. She's a Christian nationalist, according to her, and a fascist.
So there's a list here. Some of these guys, So,
but in fact, folks, let me just say this flat out: every single House representative is up for re-election.
Right.
These aren't the only people who are going to be running. These are the most vulnerable, according to the Democratic committee. So every single House seat is up again. We need the House back. Okay. We need the House back. We should never have lost the House. ever. That was not a foregone conclusion.
By the way, if you are in a district that has no one running against someone, I'm talking about someone like Paul Gosar.
Start pressuring your Democratic committee in that state to find someone, because Paul Gosar is batshit crazy.
Put someone against them. Make them spend resources. Because right now, Republicans have a ton of resources.
And we should also say that Nikki Fried, who ran against Charlie Crist in the primary for the governor of Florida, is now the head of the Democratic Party in Florida. And that can only mean an improvement.
Yep.
This woman right here, take a look down, third down on the list there, Anna Paulina Luna. She's another George Santos.
Yep, she's nuts.
She makes up shit all day long.
Yep. And by the way, if you're in Florida, first off, we need to stop talking about, we need to move out of the state. Some people need to either move in or, stand your ground. There is this movement to almost create like two countries. So, if you love living wherever you're living, but it's becoming too whatever purple or too Republican, it's your job to fight against it. I've seen a movement, in New York. It scares me a little bit, but we're fighting against it now.
Look, in Massachusetts, which has always been pretty much a blue state, except for the fact that we've always seemed to pick Republican governors.
Right.
We could work with the last one because he wasn't a fascist, but he's no longer in politics for a reason. He just couldn't deal with the Republican Party anymore. He didn't want anything to do with them.
Right.
We peacefully coexisted with him. And he never threatened gay marriage here or anything like that. We worked with him. But the last election,
Jeff Deal.
the last election, we had a huge backlash against Donald Trump in this state, because out of 140 senators or representatives in the state, only 26 are Republicans. And out of 40 senators, there's only 3 that are Republicans. This state just elected its first female governor, who also happens to be openly gay. This state said a big fat no to the GOP. And this is what needs to happen in every state of the union where it's possible. Now, I know in some states, they're certainly totally red. I get that. But we did not have to lose the House of Representatives with a 9-seat lead. We did not.
By the way, yeah.
Seats to take it back, but you know what? It would sure be good to get a bigger cushion. It would sure be good to have a big blue wave in 2024. We are protecting a 2-seat lead in the Senate. That ain't good enough. That ain't good enough. Okay? It would be nice to pick up Senate seats.
That's gonna be a long fight. And if you want any major changes towards progressive change, you're going to need to pick up 8-10 Senate seats.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a huge, if we did that, that would be huge, but I don't expect that right away.
I don't either, but it sure be nice to start making headway there, because the big problem is, if you want your reproductive rights back, you need to codify Roe v. Wade. In order to do that, you've got to be able to overcome the filibuster. You are getting nobody from the GOP to cross the aisle to do that. Nobody. You couldn't even get the women to cross the aisle from the GOP last year. When Biden tried it, they couldn't even get, what's her name there? Who's the one from Maine? See, I can't remember.
Susan Collins. Susan Collins.
Get Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski to cross the aisle. All right. So forget it.
One thing I will say is that, yeah, one of the things that Joe Biden has been able to do is place minorities, women, LGBTQ qualified candidates in positions of power. And you're not going to see it right away, but if that continues, that is going to be a huge boost to any fight that we have for medical rights. It's going to, which is why any candidate or any person who is in a position of power that happens to be transgender, such as the assistant, Rachel Levine,
Right.
such as Rachel, she's going to be attacked. And we have to protect these people and their right to be in those positions as well.
She is being attacked. She's being attacked all over Twitter. We got off of, we tried, God only knows
what was
why.
Gab?
BitChute for all
BitChute,
those
right.
videos. When I saw
BitChute was disgusting. Jesus,
it was revolting. I could not keep this group in all conscious on a platform like that. Never, ever. But I will tell you this: the trend of going after Mueller should signal to women in this country that they are going to go for a nationwide abortion ban if they are returned to power. The GOP will go there. Now, they will tell you that they're not, that they want it returned to the states, but what they tell you and what their actions are two different things. You people need to stop listening to them. They lie. They lie at every turn, okay?
And by the way,
look at what they do versus listen to what they say.
By the way, this whole thing about the evil pharmaceutical industry, the pharmaceutical industry does produce medication that we all need. So just saying.
Viagra, men, let me just say.
Heart medication.
Yeah. Insulin, heart medication for people who need it. If a judge who is a right-winger appointed by Trump with no medical expertise, right, who was a former abortion lawyer, can endanger a drug like mifepristone in this country by literally overturning the FDA's approval. Do you understand what kind of power that would give the GOP? If that continues, if that ruling is allowed to stand, do you understand what that means?
That gives them license to take control over your medical decisions.
Yeah, they will go after all the medications. They can go after any medication if they can succeed with that. They can go after vaccines. They can go after insulin. They can go after anything they want. This is a man who knows nothing questioning doctors and health officials who are trained for this. And by the way, overturning the approval of a drug that has been used successfully and safely for 23 years. It is safer to use than Tylenol. It is safer than Viagra. All right? All of this stuff is out there.
Yeah. This is a court decision that cannot be decided based on politics, but it's based on logic and law, and the fact that this drug has been used safely, as Deb said, for almost 24 years. So they don't have a leg to stand on. And if the Supreme Court actually sides with this judge, there's going to be a revolt in this country like you have never seen.
They should be.
There should be. They should be.
If the Supreme Court is smart, after what they did with Roe, they won't do that. I don't know where they're going, where they will go with this. I can't say, and so I'm not going to make any predictions. But they have, for the most part, right now, lifted all of the restrictions for the use of the drug.
For now.
Right. So they are going to hear the case. So people need to understand that this shit shouldn't be going on here. And if the Republicans weren't in power, this shit would not be going on. If Donald Trump had not stacked the courts, this shit would not be happening. They need to go. They
And
all need to go.
which pharmaceutical company produces that drug? Do you
I
know?
don't know. All I know is that 600 pharmaceutical executives
They went ballistic.
came out against what they did, and some of those companies don't have anything to do with that drug.
Right. Well, the thing is too that typically they're not political like this, but if the Republicans are going to attack them,
well, they know the danger here.
yeah,
They can go after any drug then.
right. And regulate prices.
Right. Danco Laboratories.
Okay. I hope people understand. By the way, medical freedom goes both ways. If you want to get a vaccine,
they're in Midtown. They're in Midtown Manhattan.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I know it. I knew it sounded familiar, actually.
That is the only drug they make.
Okay.
They will be making more drugs in the future, but right now that is what they manufacture.
Okay.
They're not a huge conglomerate.
Right.
So people need to understand what's going on here, and people need to know the ball is in our court come 2024. Okay? It is.
There's one way.
Politicians, it isn't. Yeah.
Make the Republicans waste their money. Okay.
They're wasting enough of yours right now. They're wasting with their little oversight committees.
Right.
They haven't done a goddamn thing. What law did they pass? They passed the same law they passed in Florida. They passed the Don't Say Gay, the parental rights bill. That's what the House passed. It's going nowhere, by the way, nor should it, because it's divisive and it pits parent against parent, and it isn't governing in the public.
Oh, it's that parental rights law thing? Yeah.
They passed that in the House, but
yeah.
This is what they're spending their time doing.
Yeah, I saw the picture of
interfering in Alvin Bragg's investigation. That's what they're spending their time doing.
So you have a little picture of Elise Stefanik and McCarthy and one of the other toads, with some parent that says parental rights on it. It's like, by the way, what about the rights of the kid who wants to do something different because they know who they are?
In Florida, in Texas, they are now considering a bill to put the 10 Commandments in every classroom. That way the kids can get to recite them as they're being shot, the next mass shooting they have there. This shit is beyond the pale, okay? All of this. I
wanted to say one thing, too. Everybody talked about the G20 summit and how they're evil and how they're trying to control the flow. By the way, that's delivery systems. Like, if with us, as I've said before, I'm on Long Island. So we had businesses talking about, okay, if Long Island has a storm or whatever, how are we going to get supplies? How are we going to get fuel to them, gasoline, so they can drive around to get to the work? That's supply chain. That's not, we're going to control them. As opposed to a law keeping school lunches to transgender kids. What the we back in the day, we were railing against, the G20 summit or whatever it was. That was a fool's errand. Okay. We have just really hateful people trying to pull school lunch programs for somebody based on their identity. I mean, what the hell? That was Abbott, wasn't it? I believe it was.
It was actually the governors of, I forget how many states. There were several governors, 12, 22. I forget what the number was. I did a video on it, but I can't remember all the numbers every time. I have to recollect.
Right, I know.
It was a coalition of governors from GOP-led states.
It's disgusting. It really is. You're talking about feeding kids, for shit's sake. And you're gonna say that the Democrats are trying to control your life because they're trying to figure out how to get supplies to you? I don't, come on.
Use your heads. Stop listening to the trolls on Twitter. I'm telling you. Right now, they're out there raising money on Twitter. People like James O'Keefe and all the rest of them, they're out there raising money on Twitter by showing rude and nasty memes about transgender people. Sarah's been out there watching for weeks about what's going on out there.
James O'Keefe has stepped down from his whatever you want to call it, news organization, if you really want to call it that, trolling organization, basically was what it is. So I was wondering what the hell he was doing. He's just doing what he always does, trolling. Okay, he's just a little more independent, I guess.
Yeah, Ali Alexander, all of these guys are all out there raising money. Laverne Spicer's going to run again in Florida. She got trounced in the primaries. She's again now. Her and her hateful anti-trans rhetoric. She's running again. She's out there on Twitter grifting for money. This is what they're running on. They're not running on any issues that mean anything to you.
Another one running for Kristen Sinema's seat. We talked about him before, Mark Lamb.
I'm making a video tonight about him. Yeah. People need to understand that he's a constitutional sheriff, and I'm going to explain what the constitutional sheriffs actually are. They're not constitutional. You can find an entire section on our website, by the way, of constitutional sheriffs, and they'll explain to you who they are. The founder of the constitutional sheriffs was also on the board of the Oath Keepers.
Yep.
You need to know what they are. They're a right-wing militia. That's really what they are.
Is he in prison now, or is he out? He's out, right?
He's not in prison.
I couldn't remember if he was.
That's not him, not the founder. He was found guilty of seditious whatever is conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
The founder. This is the guy that I can't remember his name. He's the guy that was on the medical freedom site. He was.
Is he the guy with the eye patch?
Nope.
He's the other guy. That's the founder. Yeah. Okay. I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah. That's the founder. This guy, I can't remember his name. He's hold on. Let me look it up because I should know his name. I've certainly talked about him enough, but I'm old.
This is what happens with research, guys. We forget names.
It gets full. Founder of the constitutional sheriffs. I know that he's the guy that founded him. He's the guy that traveled around on the bus.
Right.
Mark Lamb is a dangerous man. Here we go. Constitutional sheriffs and peace officers. My ass. Richard Mack. Richard Mack.
Right. Yep. Okay.
Richard Mack. He's the founder of the constitutional sheriffs. He was also on the board of the Oath Keepers. The organization was founded in 2011. He is a former Arizona sheriff.
Right.
Okay. These people are not constitutionalists. They do not believe in the Constitution. They only believe in Constitution if you meet their criteria.
They believe in living in the era of when the Constitution was written. Let's just put it this way. When slavery was around and, all of that. So
your wife around and never go to jail. Yep. They believe in all of that. They're all that.
Yeah. All
right, gang. I'm going to go now and take some blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Because this stuff really sets me off. So we will talk to you next week.
Yep. Spend your money wisely. I don't know, if anybody who actually listens to us that are following a Republican, what's wrong with you? I don't even know what to say anymore.
If you are an old school Republican, you need to.
They're not here. They're not there anymore.
You need to change that R to a D for now, okay? Because this particular iteration of the Republican Party is a fascist party.
They're not your Republican Party.
They're not. They're not even your Republican Party when you're a Mitch McConnell and you're watching all of this happen and remaining completely mute and silent to everything that's going on here, even though you don't agree with it. But you care only so much about retaining your power that you're willing to let this shit go on. You know, every once in a while we hear Mitt Romney say something nasty about George Soros. Big woo. Mitt Romney over his entire career has taken $13 million from the NRA. You understand that? Okay. So,
and by the way, Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell are being called rhinos at this point. Really? No. And I've heard people call Marjorie Taylor Greene a sellout and a rhino. I mean,
a lunatic.
She's a lunatic. You have people saying that Nick Fuentes is too.
You're getting worse. And you know, the problem is the really radical people are your base now, and they want to get rid of the Mitch McConnells and the what do you want to call it? What was his name? He used to be our governor. I hated him. I still hate him. I don't like Mitt Romney. Don't kid yourself.
Right.
I like Mitt Romney. And, you know, I don't agree in policy with anything that
Liz Cheney
says either. I mean, I
or
agree.
Kinzinger either, really.
Kinzinger either. I totally agree with them on the insurrection, though. And you know what Liz Cheney came out and said? That Marjorie Taylor Greene has no business being on any kind of an intelligence committee. And she is right. She is absolutely right about that. And so has so are the former heads of the CIA come out and said that Kevin McCarthy's making a mistake doing what he did. But you know what? Kevin McCarthy is totally emasculated. He is not running the House of Representatives.
They're talking about possibly removing him very soon too. Like, it really matters at this point.
He's running the show anyway.
He's a paper tiger at this point. He is.
Yep. Anyway. We'll talk to you later.
Wake up.